The world is watching, and Trump knows it. The atmosphere is tense, and the globe is holding its breath. With the Israel-Iran conflict reaching a critical tipping point, eyes are once again turning to former U.S. President Donald J. Trump. Whether you admire him or oppose him, one thing remains certain. In times of global unrest, Trump has a way of stepping back into the spotlight. And this time, the stakes are monumental. According to credible sources close to the Trump camp, he is preparing to make a major public announcement within the next 2 weeks. Though the exact content remains tightly guarded, many believe his message will directly address the rapidly evolving Middle East crisis, a move that could influence not only global diplomacy, but also shift momentum in the 2024 U.S. presidential race. Why is this so significant? Because the Israel-Iran conflict hasn't been this volatile in years. Tensions boiled over following a series of targeted Israeli airstrikes on suspected Iranian missile depots. In retaliation, Iran launched waves of rockets and drone attacks, some of which successfully struck military and civilian targets inside Israel. What began as tactical military exchanges has now escalated into a high-stakes game of brinkmanship, with each side testing limits and pushing boundaries. A single miscalculation could lead to regional warfare, or even broader, more catastrophic consequences. As the world looks on, global leaders are scrambling for containment. The United Nations has urgently called for ceasefires. NATO allies have issued joint pleas for restraint. Even global rivals like China and Russia have weighed in, voicing cautious warnings against further escalation. And amid all of this, Donald Trump is stirring once more. In a recent rally in Florida, he offered a statement that sparked a flurry of analysis and speculation. When I was president, we didn't have these problems. We had peace through strength. Maybe it's time to bring that back. For supporters, the comment served as a nostalgic reminder of Trump's previous foreign policy record, a time when he moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and brokered the Abraham Accords, normalizing relations between Israel and several Arab nations. For critics, it was a signal that Trump may again be positioning himself as a global disruptor, whether in office or not. Sources suggest that Trump is actively consulting with foreign policy advisors, retired generals, and key political allies. He's carefully weighing his options while keeping a close eye on regional developments. According to one unnamed senior advisor, he knows what's at stake. This isn't just about foreign policy. It's about America's leadership as legacy, and yes, the next election. What Trump will ultimately decide remains unclear, but the possibilities are already being debated everywhere. One potential scenario is a formal statement of support for Israel, possibly including economic or defensive aid commitments. Others suggest he could offer to mediate peace talks, reviving his brand as the ultimate deal-maker. Some even speculate that Trump will hold back, let President Biden make the first move, and then launch a politically timed counterstrike to boost his campaign and undermine the current administration. Timing is everything. With the 2024 presidential election rapidly approaching, Trump understands the power of appearing strong on international issues. By casting himself as the one person who can restore peace or stand firm against aggression, he appeals to a wide spectrum of Americans, from hardline conservatives to nationalists and foreign policy hawks. Meanwhile, leaders across the Middle East are watching nervously. Israeli officials, who long considered Trump one of their staunchest allies, are hopeful he will again voice support for their position. On the other hand, Iran remains wary, especially after Trump ordered the targeted killing of General Qasem Soleimani in 2020, a decision that nearly pushed both nations to war. The situation is fragile and dangerous. One misstep, whether in speech, strategy, or military action, could send the entire region spiraling out of control. Trump, known for his dramatic flair and media mastery, is well aware of this. Whatever he announces, be a show of force, a peace proposal, or even surprising neutral stance, it will be carefully staged, widely broadcast, and crafted to dominate the news cycle. Already, social media is ablaze with theories and speculation. Hashtags like hashtag Trump next move, hashtag Middle East crisis, and hashtag Israel-Iran are trending globally, with users across platforms offering predictions, opinions, and heated debate. As the world watches this powder keg of a conflict unfold, one man stands at the center of anticipation. Donald Trump is preparing to speak. And when he does, the ripple effects may reach far beyond the borders of Israel and Iran. The stage is set, the tension is thick, and the world is listening. Because history has shown us that when Trump makes a move, the world doesn't just notice, it changes. To truly understand why Donald Trump's next move matters, we have to go back. Not just weeks or months, but decades. The Israel-Iran conflict is not new. It's a deeply rooted geopolitical rivalry shaped by religion, power struggles, nuclear ambitions, and regional influence. Over the years, this tension has simmered, but recent developments have added fuel to the fire, turning what was once a cold standoff into a full-blown international crisis. Since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Iran has consistently opposed Israel's existence, often referring to it as an illegitimate state. In response, Israel has long viewed Iran as its most significant threat, largely due to Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons, its backing of militant groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, and its desire to expand influence across the Middle East. For years, the conflict remained mostly manageable, consisting of indirect skirmishes, cyber warfare, and covert operations. But the balance shifted dramatically when Israel recently launched a high-profile airstrike on an Iranian military compound deep inside Iranian territory. Intelligence reports claim that this facility was involved in developing long-range ballistic missiles capable of striking deep into Israeli cities. The attack was precise and devastating. It wasn't just a blow to Iranian infrastructure. It was a bold statement from Israel. It is watching and is prepared to act preemptively. Iran's response came quickly and aggressively. Within 48 hours, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard launched a wave of drone and rocket attacks targeting Israeli military outposts and major cities, including Tel Aviv and Haifa. Although many of these were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome defense system, some managed to break through, causing destruction, casualties, and widespread panic among civilians. As violence escalated, world leaders urgently called for restraint. The United Nations held an emergency meeting, and the European Union urged both nations to return to the negotiation table. Even traditionally reserved powers like China and Russia voiced concern over the growing possibility of a regional war. Still, neither side appeared willing to back down. The United States, a longtime ally of Israel, found itself in a difficult position. For decades, America had provided military aid and diplomatic backing to Israel. But under President Joe Biden, the U.S. response has been more cautious, focused on urging de-escalation and encouraging dialogue rather than direct involvement. Critics argue that Biden's approach appears weak and indecisive, especially when compared to Trump's more aggressive style. And that's exactly where Donald Trump re-enters the spotlight. At a recent rally in South Carolina, Trump addressed the issue with his typical bravado, saying, "We never had these problems when I was in charge. Maybe it's time to remind the world how peace through strength really works." The crowd roared, but beneath the applause, a serious message emerged. Trump is once again presenting himself as a strong leader who kept America's enemies in check. His track record supports that narrative. As president, he ordered the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, a move that stunned the world but was hailed by supporters as necessary and bold. He also pulled the U.S. out of the Iran nuclear deal, a controversial decision he claimed was essential to keep Iran contained. In addition, Trump brokered the Abraham Accords, historic peace agreements that normalized relations between Israel and several Arab nations, including the UAE and Bahrain. For many in the conservative camp, this was undeniable proof of Trump's effectiveness in the Middle East, accomplishing what decades of diplomats had failed to do. With tensions flaring once again, Trump appears poised to step back into the global conversation, not as president, but as a political heavyweight whose voice still carries massive influence. While the Biden administration continues to hold quiet talks with Israeli and Arab leaders, many believe its lack of a decisive, public stance has left allies uneasy and opened the door for Trump to reassert himself on the world stage. That vacuum in leadership is what makes Trump's next move so significant. Whether he chooses to reinforce support for Israel, float a new version of the Abraham Accords, or offer a more unorthodox call for regional autonomy, his statement is expected to immediately shift headlines, debates, and possibly even diplomatic directions. On social media, The buzz is already deafening. Phrases like Trump was right, Middle East burning, and Biden failing abroad are dominating trending lists across platforms like Twitter, X, TikTok, and Facebook. Many believe this conflict and how it is addressed by key American figures could even influence the outcome of the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Ultimately, the Israel-Iran crisis is far more than just a regional dispute. It's become a global flashpoint, and now it's also a political stage. And on that stage, figures like Donald Trump are getting ready to act once more. Because like him or not, one thing is certain. When Trump speaks, the world pays attention. Behind closed doors, Donald Trump and his closest advisors are engaged in intense deliberations as the world waits to see how he will respond to the escalating Israel-Iran conflict. Sources reveal that Trump has narrowed his options down to 3 distinct paths, each carrying significant consequences for global stability and his political image. The first and most expected option is to fully back Israel. This move will be consistent with Trump's strong alliance with the country during his presidency, when he relocated the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. By promising military support or increasing intelligence cooperation, Trump could energize his conservative base, particularly evangelical voters who strongly support Israel. However, this show of loyalty could also inflame tensions with Iran, push the region closer to war, and strain diplomatic ties with European allies who are urging caution and diplomacy. Despite the risks, Trump may see this move as a powerful way to reassert U.S. dominance and portray himself as a strong leader compared to what he calls a weak and confused current administration. The second possibility is that Trump could attempt to reclaim his identity as a global deal maker by launching a new peace initiative. This would echo his success with the Abraham Accords, which normalized relations between Israel and several Arab nations. Presenting himself as the only leader capable of brokering peace in the Middle East, Trump could appeal not just to his base, but also to moderate and independent voters who prefer diplomacy over military action. It will allow him to contrast his approach with President Biden's, whom he frequently criticizes for being indecisive and ineffective on foreign policy. However, the chances of Israel and Iran agreeing to negotiations remain slim due to their deep-rooted hostility and ideological opposition, and the effort could be seen as symbolic rather than practical. Still, for Trump, even the appearance of pushing for peace could be politically beneficial and help shift the narrative in his favor. The third, and perhaps most surprising, option being discussed is a neutral stance. Trump could break from expectations by criticizing both Israel and Iran for escalating the violence and call for a regional solution without American involvement. This would mark a bold return to his America First philosophy, updated for a new global moment. It could resonate with war-weary Americans who are tired of U.S. military entanglements in the Middle East. By staying neutral, Trump could also frame himself as a visionary leader willing to take a different route, even if it goes against traditional Republican orthodoxy. However, this strategy carries political risks. It might alienate pro-Israel voters and longtime allies who see U.S. support for Israel as non-negotiable. Even so, Trump thrives on defying expectations, and this kind of move would certainly keep the spotlight firmly on him. Insiders suggest that whatever Trump decides, he will likely announce it in a high-profile format, possibly a televised address or an exclusive interview within the next 2 weeks, once again dominating the global stage. As the international community anxiously awaits Donald Trump's next move regarding the escalating Israel-Iran conflict, global reactions and speculation are flooding in from every corner of the world. From government officials to political analysts and everyday citizens, everyone is watching, waiting, and guessing what the former U.S. president will do and how it will reshape the global order. Israeli leaders appear particularly hopeful. With a long-standing and publicly strong relationship with Trump during his presidency, they remain confident that he will throw his support behind them once again. One Israeli official was quoted as saying, "President Trump has always stood with us before. We trust he will do so again." This sentiment echoes across Israeli media and political circles, where Trump is still seen as one of the country's most dependable allies in recent American history. Meanwhile, Iran has taken a sharply different tone. Its leaders have issued stern warnings against any renewed U.S. involvement, especially if it comes in the form of direct support for Israel. Iranian state television and official spokespeople have said that any form of backing military, diplomatic, or symbolic will be met with severe consequences. Iran's hardliners are already using the potential of Trump's return to international influence as fuel for anti-American sentiment, and some even claim that his interference could be used to justify further escalation or retaliatory actions. This rising tension has forced several neighboring countries in the Middle East to increase border security and prepare for possible spillover effects. On a broader scale, major powers like Russia and China are watching the situation closely. Analysts believe both countries are using this moment of American uncertainty to advance their own regional interests. With Trump remaining silent for now, they're seizing the opportunity to influence local alliances, trade agreements, and military arrangements in the Middle East. Russia has strengthened diplomatic outreach to both Iran and Syria, while China has been quietly building trade links with Gulf states, capitalizing on Washington's current lack of unified direction. Some experts argue that whatever move Trump makes could either strengthen or weaken America's long-term credibility on the world stage. If he acts decisively, it could reassert U.S. dominance. But if he missteps, it could create openings for rival nations to take the lead in regional power dynamics. In addition to the geopolitical consequences, economists are also closely tracking developments. Uncertainty around Trump's next move has already begun to impact global oil prices and investor confidence. Just the possibility of renewed U.S. involvement or a widened Middle East conflict has led to a slight surge in crude oil prices and fluctuations in international stock markets. Some businesses are bracing for further instability, while others are positioning themselves to benefit from potential shifts in trade or defense policy. Back in the United States and across social media platforms, public speculation has reached a fever pitch. Users across Twitter, X, TikTok, and Instagram are sharing theories, memes, and debates about what Trump will say or do. Some believe he'll launch a peace campaign. Others are convinced he'll declare full support for Israel, while a few even expect a complete curveball. Political commentators suggest that this moment is more than just foreign policy. It's part of Trump's broader strategy to reframe the 2024 election narrative. By stepping into the Israel-Iran conflict, he not only positions himself as a global leader again, but also highlights what he claims are the current administration's failures in handling international crises. Whether one agrees or not, there's no denying that Trump's silence is deliberate, and his next move could send shockwaves through politics, diplomacy, and world markets alike. At this point, no one truly knows what Donald Trump is planning to do in the days ahead. The former president has remained deliberately silent, allowing speculation to grow and anticipation to reach a fever pitch. Some political insiders believe he is preparing to double down on his traditional stance by openly reaffirming full support for Israel, a move that would align with his past policies and please his loyal conservative base. Others, however, believe that Trump may be plotting something far more unexpected. A surprise peace proposal, or a high-level negotiation effort that could dramatically alter the trajectory of the Israel-Iran conflict and potentially reshape his global legacy. Regardless of what path he chooses, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Trump has no intention of staying quiet or sitting on the sidelines. His advisors have confirmed that he is actively meeting with former generals, international policy experts, and campaign strategists, analyzing the consequences of every possible move while monitoring the world's reactions in real time. True to his style, Trump is playing the long game, using suspense as a weapon. His silence is not inaction, it's strategy. By withholding his opinion until the perfect moment, he ensures that when he does speak, the world will be forced to listen. He has always operated outside the boundaries of traditional political behavior, and this moment is no different. Trump doesn't follow predictable patterns. He thrives in uncertainty, often choosing to make bold, headline-dominating moves that leave both his supporters and critics scrambling to react. Whether it's an unexpected policy shift or a last-minute decision delivered via a major media appearance or exclusive interview, Trump understands the power of timing and spectacle, and he's using it to his full advantage. Behind the scenes, the pressure is mounting. World leaders are growing increasingly uneasy about the vacuum of clarity coming from Trump's camp. Diplomats are speculating, allies are guessing, and adversaries are bracing for the impact of whatever decision is coming. Inside the United States, political analysts are split. Some believe Trump's delay is purely a campaign tactic meant to seize attention from the Biden administration, while others argue that he may be crafting a serious foreign policy proposal that will place him once again at the center of global decision-making. Regardless of the motive, the result is the same. The suspense is building, and Trump has the world hanging on his next word. As one senior official put it, this isn't just about Israel or Iran. It's about Trump's legacy, his influence on global power, and his message to voters. Whatever he announces next will echo far beyond the Middle East. That quote captures the broader truth behind this moment. It's not only a geopolitical matter, but a personal one, tied to how Trump defines himself and how he wants to be remembered. Is he the strong man who stood by America's allies? The peace broker who pulled the region back from war? Or the wild card who rewrote the rules of engagement entirely? The countdown has begun. With every passing day, the pressure grows. Will Trump call for military escalation? Will he push for a landmark peace accord? Or will he deliver something completely unexpected? Something no one saw coming? All eyes are on him. One decision, one message, and possibly a move that could change everything.